Coming up next on Tech News Today, Ron Richards joins me to talk about Facebook's trending topics. Washington Post did a study, and they say a lot of fake news is appearing there still. Also, Pixel phones on Verizon will indeed get updates directly from Google, and that's a big deal. Amazon and Pandora both launched new competitive music services today that we'll talk about. The creator of Atari is showing off his new modal VR technology, which is really cool, and a keyboard with customizable e-ink keys. All that and more coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1618, recorded October 12th, 2016. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to more than 100 job sites, including social networks, all with a single click. Screen, rate, and hire the right candidates fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/twit. And by LinkedIn Learning. Develop talent and keep skills current with expert-led, on-demand e-learning. To request a demo for your organization or get a free individual trial, visit learning.linkedin.com/twit. And by Jira Service Desk from Atlassian. Jira Service Desk delivers everything your IT team needs out of the box at a cost-effective price. For a free trial of Jira Service Desk, visit atlassian.com/twit. Hello and welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we talk about some of the biggest tech news stories with people who are passionate about technology. I'm Jason Howell, joined once again by my good friend, Ron Richards. How's it going, Ron?
Hey, Jason, I'm so passionate about technology. I can't wait to talk.
Aren't you passionate about Samsung? Don't you you just can't wait to talk about Samsung again today,
I'm
can you?
so passionate about all the myriad of problems Samsung has introduced into our lives this month. But
including
it's the story that won't die.
Yeah, including the fact that there's like pertinent news items happening every single day. There will be a day, I promise viewers and listeners, there will be a day when we will go without talking about Samsung and the Note catastrophe. Today is not one of them, but thankfully we're not starting with that. So you've got a little breathing room until we get there. So why don't we start instead with Facebook? Facebook's move to using algorithms to drive its trending topics has resulted in some speed bumps along the way. We've talked a lot about those on the show. As fake news has been spotted and portrayed as real news inside the feature. The Washington Post ran an experiment to check in on the accuracy of trending topics 6 weeks after the transition to algorithmic selection. The experiment tracked all topics shown in the section for 9 consecutive days during business hours and found 5 trending stories that were completely fake that made their way in there, as well as 3 that were deemed highly inaccurate. The Washington Post claims Facebook's goal of providing the day's most important news items in this section is failing at even higher than expected rates, with the user on the other side of the screen, of course, uncertain in many cases, I'm sure, of the validity of the story. And that kind of comes from the fact that, there have been studies that show that around 40% of all American adults look to Facebook for their news. So if they're looking there and they're seeing these things that are being pushed there algorithmically that are supposedly real stories, but in fact they are not, that could be a potential risk.
Well, yeah, it can be a potential risk, but we already have that risk every day.
Yeah.
Like even with, so like someone like me who I dislike the media, I don't like news, I don't like mainstream news, I do not watch it, I do not read it, and I rely on my Twitter feed and my Facebook feed for the news that is relevant to me based off the people that I've chosen to be friends with and follow. And the number of times I see someone post an article that's an old April Fool's article from 3 years ago and think it's the truth happens at an alarming rate. So I mean, so blaming Facebook for this, especially in the early days of this algorithm, I really don't think is fair, because a bigger problem is that these sources are out there, these fake news are out there, and maybe the approach should be identifying sites that are discredited with fake news and filtering them from the feed or doing something about it. But this is something that's going to evolve and learn over time. So I say give Facebook a break.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Like as people who largely get, I mean, we do it because it's our job to a large degree. We get all of our news online, and we have to kind of scrutinize the source and all this sort of stuff. I think there's a lot of people that just kind of passively, it's like they either watch the evening news or they log into Facebook before they go to bed, and they see whatever news items are appearing there, and they don't necessarily question what they're seeing there or look beyond the fact that it was just there. Maybe this is more about Facebook's assertion that this is a tool for true news. And if that is their assertion, then they need to follow through in some way and, be a little bit more rigid as far as what they allow there, because that's being portrayed to people as being real news when in fact, in many cases, it's not.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure, listen, Facebook is employing a lot of smart people, and I'm sure that they're looking at ways to approach this. But I mean, it can be something as simple as, when I see an ad I don't like, I click the little down arrow and say, don't show me this ad.
Right.
If you see a news article, it did not say, hey, I question the validity of this. You can crowdsource, you can combine algorithms with humans to create a good solution, I think, and I'm sure they're going to get there sooner or later. But I mean, hey, I'll be honest. I went into Facebook, and when I saw that the Samsung Note replacements were blowing up, I didn't believe it. I thought it was a fake news story, but it turns out it was true. So
I guess you just never know until you know.
Yep.
Apple has made its intentions to crack the Chinese market. No secret, of course. They've made a lot of moves there. And now the company is announcing that it will be deploying a research and development center in Shenzhen to spur Apple's growth in the country further. The move will bring Apple's engineering team closer to the company's manufacturing partners, which they hope is going to solidify relationships and support the proliferation of talented software developers throughout the city. This announcement, of course, follows a similar plan that we've heard of to open an R&D facility in Beijing as well, which was announced back in August. I guess Apple, has seen revenue in China slow down 33% annually last quarter, I believe it was. China was Apple's second largest market in 2015, but because things slowed down so much, and it's such a huge market, so this means big numbers, it actually fell behind, became third behind Europe. So, Apple has big designs to make sure that it can challenge kind of the lower cost manufacturers that are doing really well. Huawei, for example, is based in Shenzhen, and they're kicking butt in China right now because their devices are high quality, lower cost. Apple doesn't want to see that bleeding continue.
Yeah, I think we've seen the emergence of, like you said, Huawei as well as Xiaomi as a force in China. And I have a friend who actually works in the entertainment industry who likes to say all roads lead to China, and that really is the next great big or it is the big area of expansion for companies like Apple. And Shenzhen is honestly one. A R&D facility in Beijing would be nice, but I'm surprised that they announced that earlier as opposed to Shenzhen, which is really where it's all happening. I mean, you can go to Shenzhen and just walk the streets, and there's just technology everywhere. I mean, we've heard it from folks like Brady Forrest and stuff like that, folks who go to China a lot to see it. I mean, you could literally have an idea for something, go to Shenzhen, meet with manufacturers, and get it manufactured much easier than ever. It's amazing to see the explosion of manufacturing that's going on over there.
Yeah, things like a bunny phone, which longtime fans of All About Android will see. Brady Forrest actually, I believe, was the one that brought that back from Shenzhen. A phone that looks like a little portable phone that looks like a bunny that accepts a SIM card. You can find anything in Shenzhen. Yeah. It's actually referred to by many as China's Silicon Valley because it's just a manufacturing mecca. So many of these companies we talk about all the time creating hardware, they're doing business in Shenzhen. Much of their manufacturing happens there. So it makes sense for Apple to have some boots on the ground in there if it wants to drive further relationships in the country in China.
And quite honestly, seeing their revenue in China fall behind the revenue in Europe, puts Apple a little bit on the edge. They've got to they've got some competition to deal with, and so they're going to have to innovate a little better than just having a bigger phone.
Yeah. Bleak, by the way, in chat room is the one that ended up with the bunny phone. I think we had some sort of a contest and he won.
We did. And if memory serves, he has no way of charging it, I believe. So
and nor would he want to, because you just don't know what happens to your data when you put it on a bunny phone that came from the streets of Shenzhen. Google's marketing for its upcoming Pixel phones said all along that one key selling point, kind of a bullet point that they had in there, was that updates would come directly from Google. Once they announced an exclusive arrangement with Verizon, it seemed likely that those updates would in fact be delivered by the carrier, slowing down the process. History has shown time and time again that's what happens when you deal with carriers like Verizon, at least in the Android world. Google has confirmed as much previously, saying the security updates would arrive from Google itself, but Verizon would actually deliver the major OS updates, so everybody frowns. But now some good news. A Verizon spokesperson, and then soon after, Google confirmed to Ars Technica that, in fact, all updates will happen directly from Google itself. That puts its updatability on par with what iOS users have come to enjoy since the iPhone launched years ago. This is an agreement that, for whatever reason, Android OEMs have had an impossible time striking this agreement with American carriers, with U.S. carriers. Google, it appears, has been able to reach this agreement with Verizon. I say that's a big victory, and I think that kind of puts a little proof into what we were talking about last night on All About Android, with Hiroshi Lockheimer, head of Android, saying this year isn't necessarily about get the Pixel in everybody's hands and go toe-to-toe from a sales perspective with companies like Apple and Samsung. This is about opening the doors so that we can do this next year and beyond.
Yeah, and it's funny because we literally talked about this last night, and we moaned. In fact, I believe we said, buyer beware, buy the phone, buy the Pixel from Google, don't buy it from Verizon. And one of the key reasons was because of the timeliness of updates and having Verizon be involved in that process. This completely changes that. Yes, we got confirmation that Verizon is going to preload a few apps on it, but I don't think that's the end of the world. One of the apps. The only one really that you're going to want to delete is the Go 90 app, which is just a dumb video app. But the My Verizon one lets you manage your account, and the Verizon Messages is their messaging app, which up to you if you want to use. But this updates is the key part of it. And we said months ago when we were talking about when we knew that the Pixels were coming, and this was going to be a big foray into releasing a Google phone, that they were going to have to partner with the carriers. And clearly, this partnering with Verizon is the first step. And it's over 120 million subscribers on Verizon. The opportunity is huge for this phone to reach a lot of people, and so it's nice to hear that they're getting a similar deal that what Apple's doing with the iPhone. So it's an even playing field now. So.
Yeah, I mean, history. I had the Galaxy Nexus, which was a Nexus device. So Nexus devices up until that point really had, by and large, gotten their updates from Google and timely and all that. Well, of course, Galaxy Nexus was when they kind of went to carriers, and Verizon was one of them that carried the device. So I bought mine through Verizon. I was a Verizon subscriber at the time, and in reality, I ended up waiting just as long, like months basically, for updates that anyone on our true Galaxy Nexus bought directly from Google or in other ways. They got their updates the minute Google released them. So don't get me wrong, I'm excited about this, but I will believe it when I see it.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is that, and wasn't the Galaxy Nexus, wasn't that? Yeah, that was Samsung, right? Yeah, Galaxy, duh. Mm-hmm. But that was also like 4 years ago, Jason.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
I mean, it was a long time ago. So I feel like, the times have changed. Things have come a long way. It sounds like Verizon is a lot more willing to play with the, to give up that control that previously they had. And so let's give them a shot. And, and the thing is that really this is only a major issue for somebody who is currently a Verizon customer, if you ask me. Yeah. If someone's a Verizon customer who wants the Pixel phone, this is a great, easy way to do it. If I'm on T-Mobile, I'm not going to run to the Verizon store to get it. I'm just going to go to Google to buy it directly. So it's almost a non-issue. So we're really talking about those, dedicated people who've been on Verizon their entire life, and that's who they have a good deal with, and that's what they want to stay with. People do have brand loyalty when it comes to the carriers.
For sure. It's one of the reasons why, Verizon has a great network, and people will stick with Verizon specifically because of the network, and also if they happen to have grandfathered in data. But I heard from another fan of the network and the show's Vance on Twitter, who basically said once he realized that Verizon is actually passing through these updates direct from Google, he immediately went to Verizon and upped and end up paying like $330 total for a Pixel device. So there's a benefit if you're a Verizon subscriber. They sometimes have those incentives to allow you to upgrade to better phones.
And they have that currently. They have a trade-in program where you can get up to $300 rebate on trading in your current phone to get to the Pixel. So that's something to think about. The $600+ is a lot of money when it comes to talking about a phone. So.
Yeah, starting. Samsung had released its earnings guidance last week prior to the days-old recall of all Note 7s, and back then had said there would be minimal impact on the bottom line for the company for the quarter. And, as we all know, what a difference a week makes. Samsung has now released a follow-up statement that corrects the forecast pretty significantly, projecting a 33% drop in operating profit for the third quarter of 2016. That amounts to 5.2 trillion won, or around $4.6 billion of a loss. After Samsung's awesome report earlier this year due to their impressive sales of the Galaxy S7, that saw the company report its best profit in 2 years. So Samsung expects that it's going to again see a year-over-year profit decline, signaling the expectation that its movement in this space is going to slow down considerably as a result of all this Note 7 stuff, and which is just, continues to be just a sad, sad state of affairs.
I'm so glad we're talking about Samsung. I thought we were going to go this whole show without talking about it, but and it's the responsible thing for them to do to, release this update, which is truly going to affect what their bottom line is. I think it's, and these are just projections. I think it's, we're going to see what the final numbers come out to be to see the impact of what it's going to be. But I said it last night on All About Android. I just don't know how the Note brand or Samsung recovers from this. I feel like we've got a future of just blowing up jokes left and right, and I would have a hard time recommending a Samsung to anybody after this, because they're going to be like, well, it's going to blow up, and that's going to affect their brand value.
Yeah, and the other big challenge here is that actually Samsung apparently has no plans, which I kind of expected, at least to a certain degree, no plans to refurbish these devices, which basically means that these Note 7s are going to end up in a landfill. I'm sure they're going to split them apart for parts, I would guess, but I don't know. It's a lot of work for parts that I don't know how much money they recoup in the process of doing that. That might just make more monetary sense for them to scrap it entirely. But that just sucks for that sucks for planet Earth. And it's, a long list of things that suck for planet Earth. But what I find fascinating about this whole story is the news that they don't know why it's happening. Yeah. That they literally they cannot replicate it in their labs on a consistent basis. The phone is so complex and so there's so much going on packed in there that they can't say, oh, it's happening because of this and this. And as someone who's very good friends with people who work in QA departments at very high profile companies, I can imagine what they're probably pulling their hair out even thinking about this, because quality assurance is so important. And having a problem that you can't identify having an issue that you can't identify the problem for means you can never find the solution, which means they never get a good night's sleep for the rest of their lives. Right. Have they ever figured it out? Will they ever figure it out? And knowing that is the key to preventing it the next time. And if they don't figure it out, I mean, based on this report from the New York Times, some are saying that the amount of innovation and complexity in the phone is a part of the reason why it's so hard to track this down. So it's like, Samsung, you were too innovative. You packed too many awesome features in this phone. We can't track these things down as a result.
Well, and that's the point I made last night I'm sorry, I keep referring to last night. Go watch All About Android. It's a great show. But the point I made last night is that a big part of what I have never even touched a Note 7, so I have no scientific data to back this up. But I'm assuming that the larger phone equals the larger battery equals more pressure on the more heat generated as the phone gets charged and the battery recharges and all that sort of stuff. You factor in quick charging, you factor in new faster processors, you factor in new cameras, new displays. It's just we're putting a lot of stress on that one device, and my fear is that now is the Note going to be a cautionary tale and never happen again? Or is this going to be something we see on other phones as we push the envelope of what is capable given the current chemical makeup of lithium-ion batteries?
Yeah, I have to hope that everybody learns their lesson from Samsung's mistake, because it's an expensive mistake, and we don't even.
I got to tell you
that
that if a phone comes out and starts exploding again from Samsung or not, it's gonna be an epidemic. It's gonna be bad.
Yep. Intel isn't just making parts for drones, it's making its own drone called the Falcon 8 Plus. It's designed for industrial job sites to help aid in things like field inspections that can result in hours of walking for humans otherwise. The octocopter travels fast at around 35 miles per hour, so faster than a lot of the consumer drones. Weighs only 6 pounds. The Falcon 8 Plus is equipped with Intel's own RealSense 3D camera for collision detection. Intel has actually licensed that to a few other drone makers for use in their own drones. Now they're using it in the Intel branded drone. And, it even has the Intel logo, so it's got Intel inside. By targeting the commercial drone space, Intel has the potential to become more dominant in a space that doesn't yet have a super clear leader when compared to the hobbyist space, where DJI is super dominant. So kind of targeting, business, targeting industrial inspection, surveying, mapping, all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Intel's doing some interesting kind of hardware stuff lately. We're so used to hearing about their technology powering other things, but they're kind of bringing it in-house a little bit.
Which is cool. I think, it's clear that drones are here to stay. And we're seeing like this idea of this application for industrial job sites. I would never have thought of that, and that makes a ton of perfect sense. You can cover more land more quickly and be able to get great footage of it and be able to help with surveying and all that sort of stuff. And so good for them for manufacturing and being getting in the front of it. Why not just build the components that go in other people's drones? When why buy the cow when you can have the milk? You can sell the milk yourself. I don't know. There's an analogy there.
Yeah,
but yeah.
And it could be kind of like they're creating the drone to demonstrate the benefits of this collision detection system, which is beneficial to all sorts of drones. So even if the actual hardware doesn't necessarily take off, pun intended, then maybe they can at least use this as a vehicle to kind of showcase that camera technology a little bit further.
I really like the camera footage of a drone filming another drone.
I know.
It's like
there it is.
It's like droneception here.
Yes. That's great. All right, up next, 2 different music services are announced on the same day. How does that happen? We're going to talk about both of those up next. But first, let's take a minute to thank ZipRecruiter. They are the sponsor of this episode. Are you hiring? Do you know where to post your job to find the best candidates? Posting jobs in one place is not always enough to find quality candidates. And if you want to find the perfect hire, you're going to need to post your job on all of the top job sites. And now it's very easy with ZipRecruiter.com. You can post to more than 100 job boards. That includes social media networks, not just job sites, but also sites like Facebook and Twitter, all with a single click. You just post one time to ZipRecruiter, and then that's going to distribute to all these different places. And then you just kind of sit back, relax, and watch the candidates roll into the easy-to-use interface. ZipRecruiter gives you all the tools to be able to manage all of that incoming data, all of those people. You can search by skills, location, work experience. You can really drill down a whole lot more search capabilities there as well. ZipRecruiter's advanced matching technology delivers the most relevant candidates based on your specific criteria. So you tell ZipRecruiter what exactly you're looking for. That way you can mute the noise and get right to the good stuff. ZipRecruiter offers optimized pages that look great on any screen. You can also add their unique mobile apply process for even more visitors and applicants. You can find candidates in any city or industry nationwide. They're all there. And you're not going to have to juggle emails or calls to your office because it's all inside ZipRecruiter's interface. It makes it super easy. You can even add multiple users to your account if you need help managing all that. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by over 1 million businesses, and it's trusted by hundreds of Fortune 500 companies. More than 125 million candidate applications have been delivered. So whether you're hiring now or plan to hire in the near future, you want to check out their blog. Not only are you going to find all the stuff I've talked about, you'll also find recruiting tips and hiring resources to make your life easier. You can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/twit. ZipRecruiter is the fastest way to hire great people. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/twit, and we thank ZipRecruiter for their support of Tech News Today. All right, so I'm a music lover. I know, Ron, you are a music lover as well. We have a few new services launching today that you might want to get in on. First, Amazon was rumored to be near a launch of a music service exclusive to Echo users, and sure enough, the company announced Amazon Music unlimited for $3.99, pretty competitive price per month. Amazon will stream its library of, they say, tens of millions of songs to a single device from the Amazon Echo family. Any of the Echo devices will work. Multiple device accounts cost $7.99 for Prime members and $9.99 if not Prime, which that is comparable to most other major streaming music services. But what do you think, Ron? I mean, the idea of a less expensive music service tied to a particular gadget in your home is a little different, but that's a pretty compelling price.
Oh yeah, totally. It totally is a compelling price, and that's the thing, is that this is a clear response to, whether or not it's a clear response to Google Home and the upcoming competition in the home that Amazon Echo is going to see or not. I know that from folks that I follow close to Amazon, that this has been in the works for a long time, and just continues away. It's continuing a way for Amazon to make better services for their customers, to keep them their customers. And at a lower price point, it's hard to argue that. I would scoff at the limited to one device, but most people that I know have only one Echo.
Right.
Even though the Dot has been made to be like a smaller one that you can put in other rooms and all that sort of stuff, but everyone that I know is Amazon Echo has bought one, put it in their living room or kitchen or open concept, the kind of general family room area, and that's sufficient. So maybe this is a nice little program if you're an Amazon customer.
Yeah, and I mean, if the whole limited to one device thing is a problem, I mean, they give you the cost, the tiers for opening it up to multiple devices. If you happen to already be a Prime subscriber, then that music service is only $7.99. Consequently, that's what I pay for Play Music. But that's just because I got in very early. We all got in. If you went to Google I/O, you got in for that price, and it's locked for good forever. Normally that price is $10, so it's hard for me to think about paying more because I've already got it. So this price seems on. I just wonder what the size of the library. They say tens of millions, and I don't know exactly how that compares to the size of the libraries of other services.
They're actually, I mean, I'm pretty certain that they have everything that you'd be looking for, at least.
Sure.
I think that Amazon has quietly done a good job with their music service, because it's where I buy MP3s now when I need them. Even I am a Google Play Music subscriber, but every now and then you need the actual file if I'm using it, for in a podcast or something like that. So I go to Amazon, I buy the MP3. I've never had an instance where they don't have it, and I listen to a lot of independent artists and non-major label stuff, and it's all there. So I think that their catalog is probably pretty robust. And it's funny because I'm a Prime customer mainly for the free shipping and for some of the other perks, mainly for the video. I never use the music application, but there is the ability to identify things that you have purchased, and then here's the digital versions. They do a great job with the Cloud Locker and the Amazon Music Player. So it might be something that I look at. I would look at if I was going to buy an Echo. Although I've already pre-ordered my Google Home, so I'm not going to get an Echo. So maybe it's moot. But
yeah, you'll be able to do this on your home with the music service you already have. So
yeah, exactly. Right. But I did think it was interesting that speaking of the Google Home, that they're dropping the price of the Echo Dot from $89 down to $49, which I don't know if that's, again, is the Echo Dot not doing well, or is that to combat against the lower price Google Home device? Who knows? But
it's actually they had announced this earlier this month, and it's actually an updated version of the Echo Dot, so it brings some new functionality and everything. So I think it is challenging things like Google Home in price for sure. I mean, $50 is a great introductory kind of price. Maybe it's more competitive to like the Chromecast Audio sort of, even though Chromecast Audio doesn't have kind of the voice command kind of contextual stuff going for it. So yeah, there it is. So
I really think this is the beginning. I think we're just in the top of the first inning of the battle for home devices like this. Yeah. I think Google Home, I think Amazon Echo. I would not be surprised if Apple, if we get some sort of Apple instance in this arena in some point in the next year. And I think the battle for these home assistant devices is going to just be starting now, which I think is great because I love seeing innovation. So
right. Now, Pandora is also unleashing its already announced Pandora Plus service today. That's going to bring an ad-free listening experience to subscribers who pay $4.99 per month. For that monthly fee, users will also have the ability to skip songs at will, replay songs to your heart's content, queue songs for listening while offline. Those are the main features anyways. Subscribers to Pandora One will automatically be shipped over to Plus. Pandora's full-fledged music service subscription service is expected to happen sometime by the end of the year. So this is like the mid-tier for what Pandora has planned right now with the subscription service. The full service launching sometime by the end of the year, which feels maybe a little late for Pandora, but I mean, Pandora's no slouch when it comes to users. 78.1 million users in total. Compared to Spotify has 40 million paid subscribers, so maybe it's not apples to apples, but they've got a lot of users.
Yeah, I feel like we always kind of give Pandora the short shrift because they were really the first ones on the scene, and because of that, they've suffered because Spotify and Apple Music and Google Play Music have been able to look at their model and then tweak it to be a little more competitive, whereas they've kind of stood pat. But the way I see it is that if they have Pandora Plus has 4 million subscribers and Pandora has 78 million total, that's a whole lot of people you can convert, and you can be very competitive with Spotify very quickly if they're effective in converting those users. Yeah. And maybe this is a way to do it. But yeah, Pandora's nice, and hey man, that's some sexy new branding they rolled out. I really like no seriously, I really like the new logo, and I really like the whole kind of look of what they're doing. And I don't think like Pandora was we talked about it a lot like 5, 6, 7 years ago, and then it kind of quietly went away, and people who use it are loyal to it. But it might be worth revisiting.
And I think the rebranding. I mean, it's always kind of funny when they do a rebranding because it's like, man, they're trying really hard to look current and whatever, but I think it was necessary for Pandora. I feel like we've been looking at the same Pandora for a really long time, and a lot has changed in the however many years that Pandora's been around. So I don't even think this new logo is a case of trying to look hip in a modern world. I think it's just an update to the current style and look and feel, and it's actually done very well, and it seems to be very flexible, and from a branding standpoint, it's pretty strong. So way to go, Pandora! Good job. Especially when they're announcing new types of services and new tiers and everything like that, it goes hand in hand with that.
It's a good time to do it. Yeah.
Coming up, the creator of Atari unveiled a new VR system, and this time, even your living room isn't big enough. But first, let's take a minute to thank LinkedIn Learning, the sponsor of this episode. The shelf life of skills is less than 5 years. Many of today's fastest growing categories didn't even exist 5 years ago. That's how fast things change in technology. Introducing LinkedIn Learning. It's personalized, expert-led, on-demand e-learning from LinkedIn. You can keep your team engaged. LinkedIn Learning is the perfect way to promote professional development. LinkedIn Learning will identify the precise skills that you or your organization needs to achieve, set goals, and will create personalized recommendations using LinkedIn's network intelligence. Your team's going to have access to more than 9,000 courses, and more than 25 courses are added every week. So there's always new content being fed in. Their library includes courses taught by world-class industry experts covering topics ranging from leadership skills to design principles to programming and a whole lot more. You can learn anytime, anywhere. There's bite-sized segments that can be viewed on any device, online or offline if you want to store them for offline viewing. Their bite-sized videos provide immediate problem solving, and you can download those so you can learn them on the go at your own pace. It's the perfect way to help team members close a skills gap without interrupting your latest project. Team solutions are available for as little as $2,000. Grow your network and your career. Visit learning.linkedin.com/twit to request a demo for your organization or get a free individual trial. That's learning.linkedin.com/twit. And we thank LinkedIn Learning for their support of Tech News Today. So Nolan Bushnell, he's quite a legend in the world of video games. He's the creator of Atari, and don't forget, also Chuck E. Cheese back in the day. So you can either thank him or hate him for that. He unveiled his new VR company today. Joining us to discuss this a little bit, this new approach, is Russell Hawley from VR Heads. How's it going, Russell?
Hey, it's good to be here.
Good to have you back so soon. But hey, there's so much happening in VR, so we had to get you back today. If the promotional video is to be believed, now we need a football field for VR. Tell us what makes modal VR different from what we've seen in VR so far.
Yeah, so Modal VR is designed to be played in big spaces. It's not designed to be something that you would have in your house like Oculus Rift or PlayStation VR. This is very much what businesses would purchase in order to have, like VR play spaces, kind of like laser tag arenas. Where everyone's going to have headsets and kind of full body tracking and gloves and be able to play games that take advantage of these larger spaces where multiple people can be playing together.
I mentioned Chuck E. Cheese up at the top, but in a strange way, I mean, it's kind of like Nolan Bushnell kind of returning to his roots in many ways, right? Like the old school arcade was a place where people who didn't have, video games in the home could go to play video games. Now it seems like what he's doing in the world of VR is kind of taking this idea of you might not have VR at home, so you go here and you play in this arena with our hardware. Is that kind of a good analogy here?
Yeah, it would not shock me at all to hear that this is an idea that Nolan has had for 30 years and someone finally told him that it was possible.
Yeah. I'm super excited. I know, Ron, you are a big fan of Nolan Bushnell. Would you follow him along in this grand vision?
I absolutely would. I mean, he's the creator of Atari, creator of Pong. Everything that we know about video games has pretty much come from this guy and the group of people that he put together at Atari. And it's funny because it's funny to read about this because, and Russell, I'm sure you've heard the same thing as I. But I spoke to I spoke to an investor friend of mine, as well as some other entrepreneur folks, and saying that VR spaces are going to be coming. I heard of an opportunity in Brazil where they're going to start building like a VR arena where you go and it's like an arcade or a Chuck E. Cheese type place that you go and play VR with. And my question has been, can the hardware really handle that? Is that something that's powered by Vive or Oculus Rift? But it seems as if Modal is making a play for that. I mean, Russell, how far away do you think we're going to be from having a VR arena to go visit?
Yeah, so I mean, we're already starting to see kind of VR cafes that are just like the start of this. There are places in India and one or two places here in the U.S. that have really kind of jumped into that. But what we're seeing here is just what you described. Kind of the laser tag arena for VR spaces where you can kind of run around and do this stuff. And what's really fascinating here is that it's all wireless. It's all kind of server based. There's a big, kind of central computer that powers everything instead of a lot of individual computers like we've seen with the Void VR, where everyone's got, kind of a backpack PC to power everything. So this is, again, if this works anything like the promotional video, it could be very exciting.
Yeah, Void was what really came to my mind because we covered that on the show months ago, and that just seems like that's exactly what we're talking about here. It's like taking that idea and almost making it like a turnkey sort of thing. Here's all the hardware and the gear that you need to create a virtual reality experience, and people will pay you to jump in and play it.
I think the most interesting part of everything that got announced here is the way that the software is being handled. It's really kind of open for developers to come in and create experiences that could then also be bought by these companies. So not only is it a VR arena kind of setup, but it's one that could potentially offer multiple experiences that you could kind of choose between before stepping in and participating, which could be, even more interesting than something like the Void, where it's one really refined experience in one area that's been kind of catered. This could potentially be almost like holodeck style, where you've got multiple pieces of software to choose from.
We're just inching towards the Star Trek future. I love it. It's fantastic. Right? So my question for Modal is whether or not they're biz dev people. I mean, I hope somebody sent this video straight to Disney and was like, "Hey, how much for Tron? How much for the Tron license?" Because we need Tron Deadly Discs in VR.
Seriously. You kind of have it. I mean, that video that we were showing, that's actually part of the announcement, is a game called Mythic Combat, and it really kind of has a lot of similarities to exactly what you're talking about, where you're kind of flailing your hands, throwing these discs. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit the monitor. But yeah, I mean, this stuff really, I'm super jazzed to get a chance to check this out. Now, this is all wireless. Is this, taking a look at kind of the near term for consumer VR, let's say, Russell, do you think that some components of this will hit consumers' hands in the next 2 to 5 years, like kind of the wireless detached aspects of a system like this?
So, and this gets kind of complicated because wireless VR is at least from the caliber that we see right now with HTC Vive and Oculus Rift is computationally very expensive, and it's something that isn't being done particularly because the amount of data that has to be sent wirelessly in order to maintain that resolution and not have any dropped frames or anything like that is just beyond what most people can build with computers and wireless thresholds can handle in an average home right now. There are just more pieces of technology that need to come into play, that need to come down in cost in order for that to be something that is feasible for someone to have in the home. I'm concerned with the demos that we see here that there are going to be some lowered resolutions in order to meet those wireless expectations, because not only is there a wireless threshold that has to be met, but the frame rate in VR, especially when you're moving around, has to be at a constant rate. It can be a constant rate at 60 frames per second and be okay, but at a constant frame of 90 frames per second, which is what we see with Oculus Rift and HTC Vive, is really ideal, because that's kind of the best experience for feeling like you're actually looking down and seeing your hands and not having any kind of stuttering or lagging. So that's right. A really incredible challenge to overcome if they've actually done it already.
Yeah, hopefully they place high importance on that, because that is, from everything that I understand, that for that constant 90 frames per second frame rate is the difference between not being sick and possibly getting sick, or kind of detaching from that reality. So arcades, back when I was younger, really fueled excitement for video games. And do you think systems like this are going, like these walk-into experiences for VR have the ability to drive that excitement for virtual reality for the home going forward? Like, do you think that could happen again?
That seems to be the general sentiment. When I talked to the team behind the Void, that was kind of the overall goal, was creating these kind of individual experiences that were so high quality that you had this separate incredible experience that you could have elsewhere, but then at home you could have something that was very close if you were willing to kind of invest into it.
Yeah,
and so that seems to be kind of the same goal here.
Excellent.
What I find fascinating is that, like, what Nolan Bushnell and Atari did was not only create great video games, but then eventually be able to take the arcade games that you loved in the arcade and bring them to the home, which eventually led to the destruction of the video arcade. And yet now we have VR in the home, and he seems to be spearheading a company that will allow you to create a place where you can go play VR. It's almost coming full circle. So
maybe what he needs to then do is take the idea of modal, push it out into this grand, place, this location that you go to demonstrate the hardware, and then he needs to have a home system that you can get and have some sort of like transfer from one to the other. I don't know. He's probably thought.
They were really super clear about not having any kind want to, which I thought was really interesting.
I'm dreaming of having a room that's just black with yellow grid lines, and I'll put the modal system in and have my own holodeck. That'd be great.
Well, you can kind of get there right now, with some of the you're going to pay through your teeth maybe, but I mean, some of the VR systems, the HTC Vive, the Oculus Rift, I mean, they're really, the PlayStation VR is fun as well, and it's a good solution. But with the room mapping and everything, like, you can kind of get there, Ron. It's just a matter of, what do you want to invest in it? How far do you want to go down that rabbit hole?
And how quickly until I bend over vomiting from all the...
Or because you ran into a chair.
Exactly.
Russell Holly, always a pleasure getting you on all of our shows. Really appreciate you taking time out today to talk to us about this. Tell people where they can follow all your work online.
You can follow all of my VR stuff on @VRHeads tweets or at VRHeads.com, and you can follow all of my stuff at Russell Holly on Twitter and Facebook.
Excellent. All right. Have a good night, Russell. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks,
man. All right, TNT's fan of the day is Drew Panu on Twitter, who sent us this video telling us that Google's Assistant knows who we are. We're famous. Let's listen to this.
Here's the news.
So he said, give me the news. And it said, here's the news. And then it just like auto plays Tech News Today. How did that happen? I have to imagine that he has Pocket Casts, like there's some sort of interplay between Assistant and Pocket Cast to know that, like, news, like, I don't know, how is this working, Ron? What do you think?
It could be similar to that thing that we found with Google Now, where it just starts playing podcasts. When you say play whatever, it's picking up that it's an actual podcast. Who knows?
He said, give me the news. That's all that it took. And it was like, oh, okay, then you want tech news today. That's awesome. No matter how you slice it, that's really cool. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup. Post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we'll find it. Up next, we look into the future. We look into the crystal ball, the future of Apple's keyboards. But first, let's take a minute to thank Jira Service Desk from Atlassian. They're the sponsor of this episode. Are you tired of clunky support tools that are a pain to use? That doesn't sound like very much fun to me. Modernize IT support with Jira Service Desk from Atlassian. Jira Service Desk is new service management software that IT teams will love to use. It's built on the Jira platform, of course. Jira Service Desk delivers everything your IT team needs out of the box at a cost-effective price. Jira Service Desk lets you give customers an easy way to ask for help. You can help your agents be productive, from putting out fires to helping employees get stuff done. You can stay on top of service level agreements with dynamic queues and mobile alerts. You can automate repetitive tasks so that your agents can focus on solving the important stuff, not get bogged down with the unimportant stuff. Jira Service Desk is simple to set up and so affordable, you won't even need your boss's approval. The techs around here, we use Jira Service Desk all the time. It's just one of the many Atlassian products that we use here to drive Twit behind the scenes. And you'll want to check it out for yourself. For a free trial of Jira Service Desk, visit Atlassian.com/Twit. The first 100 signups will receive a free t-shirt. You can see why over 20,000 IT teams love Jira Service Desk by trying it for free today. That's Atlassian.com/Twit. And we thank them for their support of Tech News Today. Apple is said to any day now announce an event for the end of the month that would see an update to a number of Mac products, including, crossing my fingers, the MacBook Pro, which is expected to see a new LED panel in place of the function keys. And that can be refreshed to show different buttons, perform different functions depending on the app. That sounds super cool, and I can't wait to see it if it comes to bear truth. A source who claims to be a Foxconn insider on Reddit and was supposedly verified as such by the moderators there, so take from that what you will, claims that Apple is near the acquisition of a company called Sonder that creates technology to bring e-ink into keyboards. This means that all of the keys would be capable, potentially, of refreshing with different letters, different numbers, symbols, whatever the application might need, and they might call it something like Magic Keyboard. There's actually a video accompanying this that kind of shows off a little bit about what Sonder has done in the space prior to the potential of being acquired by Apple. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but I believe that Apple could be working on something like this, because that could be kind of a game changer. What do you think, Ron?
Yeah, I feel like this reminds me, like, I remember like 10 years ago, we were all excited about the emergence of OLED and what that meant for input devices. You know, a keyboard where each key was blank and the software you were using determined what keys came up on the keyboard or whatever. And I guess the dream of OLED on that small level, it was too cost prohibitive, or I don't know why that never happened. But I saw so many prototypes, like right around the 06, 07 period of OLED keyboards. It's interesting that they would go e-ink for this. Be curious to see what Apple does with it in terms of that sort of innovation. But, you know, my word, do we need an update to the MacBook Pros? So like, I'm just happy to hear that. Like don't even give me any bells and whistles. Just give us new laptops, because it's so tired, those the current MacBook Pros. But this is neat. I want to see what they do.
Yeah, I mean, and I you know, it came from a Redditor. Supposedly they verified this. This was just kind of like in the floating up in space. Wouldn't that be a neat little thing if it happened? Who knows if it'll ever happen. But I kind of like the idea that, like, you know, and Bleak in chat is saying, who needs that? You know, pros memorize the keyboard shortcuts. I've worked with Pro Tools a million times, and I still have to look up keyboard shortcuts that I would love to just look down and go bloop and know that it did it, you know? So
it would be great to not be limited by the standard QWERTY style keyboard that we're so used to, where if you're using Premiere or Final Cut Pro or Pro Tools or whatever, that the E key is no longer the E key and it's the play button, you know, like it's a different way of approaching the keyboard. Sure. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, do that, Apple. Ron, always a pleasure getting you on, man. Thanks for joining me once again on TNT. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me and giving me an opportunity to talk about Nolan Bushnell.
Exactly.
Awesome.
I'm sorry we couldn't get an interview with Nolan Bushnell, but if we do secure something like that, I'll make sure and get in touch with you.
One can dream. One can dream.
Where do you want people to go to find out more about what you're doing?
Yeah, just follow me over at Twitter at twitter.com/RonXO or at RonXO. I don't know why I did the whole URL there. But yeah, you can follow all my exploits there. As we've mentioned numerous times, every Tuesday on the Twit Network here, I'm here doing all about Android, and I pop up on other shows every now and then. If you're into comic books, check out my comic book podcast over at ifanboy.com. And definitely follow me on Twitter because I'm working on a new podcast that's hopefully going to launch within the month. So it's going to be a good one. So stay tuned.
Excellent. Yes, definitely do that. Thanks again, Ron. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jason.
All right. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv. Leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW. You can find us on Twitter. We're at Tech News Today TV. Twit is now on the Amazon Echo Flash Briefing. We've talked about it many times in this show at the end. So if you have an Echo, get in on the fun. Every day, you're going to get updates on the latest tech news and events. Leo, myself, and Megan will read those to you. Basically, we'll be the first voices in your ears. To hear Twit's flash briefing, be sure to go to your settings in the Alexa app, search for Twit, and subscribe. It's an awesome way to start your morning. Find all the ways to subscribe to our show at twit.tv/TNT. If you want to tweet at me, I'm at Jason Howell. Megan Maroney, of course, will be back tomorrow. Thanks to Kevin for pushing buttons and editing. Thanks to Matt for scrolling words on a screen. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see you all tomorrow. Bye, everyone.